Two former top execs of Citigroup are in the hot seat today. They are being questioned in Washington about Citigroup's role in the mortgage meltdown. 3 days of hearings are underway to figure out how trillions of dollars in risky mortgage debt was spread throughout the system. Joe Krier, president of Krier Wealth Management, is here today to talk about some admissions of guilt and important lessons coming out of this. Good morning to you, Joe.
Hi, Stacey.
This is called officially today the Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission, which is a relatively new panel.
Yes, it is. It actually has been around for about 8 months. It was created out of some legislation that was part of the Recovery Acts passed last year when we were trying to find some kind of a bottom to this whole mess.
And what do they do? I mean, they want to get basically down to the causes of this thing.
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate thing here is for them to provide a report to Congress and the president that they can use to help formulate laws to prevent this in the future. And they're allowed to subpoena just about anybody they want to, dig into any records. I mean, they've pretty much got carte blanche on Wall Street.
And they want to review the lending laws and practices as well. This sounds, like it's an easy thing to do, but can we tease out all the complex machinations going on behind the scenes to find out what happened here?
Yeah, that's a good point, because it was the complexity of it that allowed it to get as bad as it really was. The real truth was that when the money was borrowed by people, that mortgage was taken and twisted and contorted and broken into pieces and then resold to other entities, and everything kind of got lost in the shuffle. So what this commission is going to try to do is bring some accountability back to the process so that we can get some laws that clean it up and ultimately, hopefully, protect consumers.
Robert Rubin was one of the leaders of Citigroup when all of this was going on. He is the former Treasury chief under former President Bill Clinton, and yesterday one of his former colleagues was in front of this panel as well, saying, I told people about this, I said this was coming, I knew this was coming, and yet you'd think Robert Rubin might know better, according to some people.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, most of the people making the laws in Washington are either attorneys, or the other biggest group that supplies people is Wall Street. And Goldman Sachs is one of the firms that Robert Rubin worked for in his early days. And a lot of the people that are getting fingers pointed at him, or firms, they have employed people like Tim Geithner, Paulson, just all these different names.
So it's almost like a big, extended family here we're talking about.
It certainly is, and they have to walk a fine line between getting too accusatory, yet still solving the problem. And I think everybody's on the same page. They still want to make money, but they want to do it the right way, and they want to simplify the system. That's the key word I always come back to when I talk legislation.
Yeah. Former Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan, who was just for many years at the top of the economy here in the United States, so many people looked up to him, came back yesterday and said, you know what, I made some mistakes.
Certainly, yeah, and yesterday wasn't the first time he admitted that. I actually sat in on an interview with him 2 weeks after he retired a few years back, and he said, my God, we were scared to death a few times going through this thing. And just like right now, there were certain key points throughout history where it was a giant experiment. And the big thing that Greenspan was sort of held accountable for was lowering interest rates to save the economy from the dot-com bubble, and then keeping them low so long that the real estate market kicked off and there was no end to it until the bubble burst.
Until the bubble burst. So you've put together a graphic of who's really to blame, and one of the main people to finger point at is the lenders, you feel.
Yeah, I do, and ultimately it's everyone and anyone involved in the process. The laws allowed it to happen. The lenders pushed the money out the door. The borrowers took too much debt. That would be anybody who bought a home that they were over their head in, which is still 25% of people. Creative financing that pushed interest-only loans out the door. And the federal regulators, they admit that they did not keep a tight enough handle on what was really going on out there.
And with 15 seconds, mortgage rates expected to rise, correct?
Yeah, they're moving up right now because they're sort of still pegged to the 10-year Treasury bond, which the yield has been going up on that. Supply and demand dictates, though, that mortgage rates are going to have to come down in order for people to be enticed to go out there and actually buy real estate again and a new home. And that process is going to take a little while.
All right, Joe Krier, president of Krier Wealth Management. Thanks so much, Joe.
Welcome.